Hey, everybody. Welcome into the Lettermen Lounge. This is Lettermen Live. It is brought to you by Roosters. It's a fun, casual joint, and we are going to have a fun, casual conversation about the Ohio State Buckeyes, who are heading to the Rose Bowl to play Utah, and it's probably the fourth or fifth or sixth most interesting thing going on for the Buckeyes right now. That's Justin Zwick, Bobby Carpenter, Jeremy Birmingham, and I am Austin Ward. So
start there.
We start with the game?
Name us the five things that are more interesting.
Yeah.
Go.
This is we polled 100 people.
Well, to me,
there's at least three.
I mean, you guys can tell me, are you super excited for this matchup other than the fact that Roosters has a bowl to give away?
Well, you're going to California, so the Roosters Bowl giveaway. There are 24 lucky people.
They get to go to the most expensive bowl game.
The most expensive
So,
bowl
Nicole,
game.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that hurts.
Well, that's why she couldn't come today. She's
she's working.
Feeling sick.
Yeah.
She was driving in.
Getting scolded. You thought this was a good idea? We're going to California.
Nicole, I'm seeing these prices for flights.
She's on the other side of the restaurant waiting tables.
She's driving to California, smoking the bandit style to go out in the bay to get the mac and cheese bites off of the container ship. Jet skis, riding them in to get them back here for Berm and Schlegs and the whole crew. Maybe some potato wedges while we're at it. Stop
That would be nice.
Stop by Idaho.
Hey, I was actually at
quick
Roosters
pit
on
stop.
Saturday. Potato wedges were back.
Hey, all right.
Make a quick pit stop in Idaho. Pick up some tubers.
Tubers.
I mean, am I wrong? Aren't the other things about the offseason more
So
interesting?
I don't know about these things. You'll have to explain them to me.
Okay, well, we'll get into it then. I guess you are just excited for the Rose Bowl and the matchup.
I'm excited to watch. It's not the matchup with Utah. It's what Utah represents. I've watched the Buckeyes against the two best teams, but you could even throw maybe Penn State in that mix a little bit. I can't really run the ball. Throw
Minnesota.
Nebraska, maybe Minnesota in there.
Oregon.
And Michigan. Like those four teams, you're 2-2, and the two best teams beat you both times and kind of controlled that thing. And so you're going to get an opportunity to play a team who smoked
them.
Oregon twice. First time on the road. Okay, it's on the road.
76-17.
Maybe Utah didn't respect the fact they're still like a group of five school. We don't fully acknowledge them in here. And like whatever it is, you can make up any reasoning why. They weren't prepared. They didn't expect it. You went in there the second time after just
Eyes open,
buddy. You spent a month in the hospital after that game. It was 28-0 halftime, and the same thing happened again. I mean, outside of the punt return with no time left on the clock at the end of the first half, I'm watching the thing on Friday night, and I'm like, how could they have not been prepared?
It's almost like their coach was thinking about something else.
I don't care if he was thinking about anyone else. If I'm the free safety, I'm going to do what Virginia Tech did back in 2014. I'm line up 7 yards off the line of scrimmage, and I'm just extra run player. And by the way, Utah turned the ball over a couple times too, so it's not like they played a clean game. Quarterback threw a couple picks. So that's what I'm excited about that, just simply to see.
You weren't even excited for the opener at Minnesota because it wasn't here.
Well, that's true.
What a full 180.
Yeah, but the Rose Bowl is the granddaddy of them all.
I don't care if they were playing this thing in the Music City Bowl. It wouldn't have mattered. It's the fact that who they're playing and what they represent.
I'd prefer to go to Nashville.
I mean, that'd be nice.
Well, you don't like to fly.
Yeah,
that's understandable.
Maybe the Birmingham Bowl, your hometown.
Oh, yeah, they're fun.
Berm.
The Berm Bowl.
The Berm Bowl.
Berm
But it's really a fact.
There's like 8 of them. Nobody would know who it was after.
Very rarely, though, do you ever get the chance to answer a question from the final game of your regular season.
That quickly.
Yeah.
That quickly. And it's not going to be, we stopped the run against a team who's not really trying to run the ball. That's all Utah wants to do.
Right.
If you watch the game, that's all they want to do. So you're going to have an answer. Like, can you solve the problem? We thought they got better, and maybe Michigan was really hot, but you're going to have an opportunity to answer. So that is what has me excited.
Interesting.
Real sports.
I'm more scared. I kind of watched that Utah game. They looked legit. 2 games like you talked about. 76-17, beating Oregon twice, which is hard to do. And we better come to play because it feels. We're in the Rose Bowl. It sucks.
Oregon's like, we're in the Rose Bowl.
Well, yeah. Utah's pumped.
Utah's never been in the Rose Bowl.
They've never been.
Yeah.
And, us and our fans are just like, because we wanted everything else. So, it's a scary one. We better be ready to play. I don't know. Nobody's
Not yet.
come out and said they're not going to play. So, right now we have a full roster, which is great. But
except for the 3 guys that are already
which I think that was probably in the list of the 5 things you were talking about.
That's one of the 5 things?
Yeah.
Well, portal sliding, but if I'm Utah, I'm looking at that thing and like, hey.
They're licking their chops right now.
They have to be looking at it and seeing an Ohio State team that doesn't seem interested in the game. I wrote about it on Sunday, like Ohio State's playing in the Rose Bowl and no one seems to care. remember what it was like when you were in college or when we were growing up. Like, going to the Rose Bowl was a big deal.
Oh,
yeah.
And now it's not, because college football's changed so much that if it's not a playoff game, it doesn't matter. But, like, it still does matter. It's still a pretty cool
Are they
opportunity.
keeping score?
That's what I hear.
Yeah, it will.
That's
Yeah.
what I hear.
They will.
If people can see the game and they're keeping score, it matters,
Right.
because that is your pride.
I also think that there's a good chance, to one of your points there, Bob, that will be the most watched bowl game.
Of course.
Because you have the playoff games. I think we know what's going to happen there most likely, but they're also on New Year's Eve, so it's already been proven that even if you have the greatest matchups in the world,
I don't know what's
most
gonna
people don't
happen.
want to watch it.
Tell me what's going to
Well,
happen.
the largest spread of any bowl game is the 1 versus 4 matchup. So I'd love to see
There was a spread that was similar to that for a 1 versus
Was
4
there?
bowl game
Was
that
there?
took place
2014.
in New Orleans.
Was one of the coaches on that team the same? That's now against the team that was playing against was the same
There's actually
team?
a couple guys who I think may have been rostered on Ohio State in different capacities that are down there. So, yeah. And by the way, people ask, like, oh, it's 13.5 or whatever it is. You can see it different places. I'm like, I just watched them beat Georgia by 17. So
I'm not going to bet. I'm not going to bet against.
know what
I'm not going
that
to bet against Luke Fickell's ability to get his team prepared to play. That's all.
Yeah.
Well, and they're going to be the opposite, right? They're going in. Alabama's going to be going in that game saying,
Right.
Eating
we're,
rat
we're
poison.
14.
Nick
Yeah,
Saban?
they're going to be getting all kinds of good
I'm
rat
just
or
saying-
bad rat poison, I guess.
It tastes yummy.
Nick Saban's teams, when they are expected to win, are different than when they are expected
yeah.
to
Oh yeah,
struggle.
that's
because he's only been the underdog. Like, it's first
yeah,
time in
like 3 or 4 times.
93
his whole
games.
career.
I'm sorry to hijack your point. You said that
my point is the Rose Bowl does matter to a lot of people, and it does matter to those coaches. It matters to fans around the country, and I think you're just absolutely right, Bob. Like, this is about how willing are you to change things? How willing are you to get in there and get dirty and fix things and make sure that what happened against Michigan and Oregon and Wisconsin doesn't happen again? And it's going to be interesting just because we don't know how many guys are going to not play, especially like defensive linemen. I mean, that could be an area where
Oh, God.
Oh gosh, think about that.
I mean, if you're
man.
looking at one spot on the roster outside of wide receiver where I think there's an expectation from a lot of people that Garrett Wilson may not play or that Chris Olave won't. I think
with Chris,
I
he's
think
going
Chris
back
will.
home.
I
I'm
think
pretty
Chris
sure
will
Chris
play.
Olave will play.
But the defensive line now, it's a whole different ball of wax.
Oh,
That
Haskell the
becomes
Rascal. I mean, he's a
scary.
Vegas kid. It's going back closer to home for him. I mean,
But if
whether-
Tyreek Smith and Zach Harrison have ideas of going off to the NFL or something,
And they don't play?
and they don't play,
Who?
what do those ideas look like?
I'm not even sure that they're in position to leave. right?
I'm just saying that's one position group where I think you could see some oddity if there's guys that decide to sit out. That's all I'm saying.
It could be a possibility. I think the last game though that they played has to have a bad.
If it doesn't piss
leave
you
a
off,
bad,
then you're a wrong guy.
Got to
for the
leave a
program.
bad taste in their mouth. They don't want to go out that last game being their game or their last one. So I think they. I hope, man, because if we lose a couple D linemen, it could be a long day
Hey,
out there.
I just give me about the 6 toughest dudes we have. I don't care about pass rush. I don't care anything else. They're not going to try to throw the ball that much, okay? So we don't need to worry about
I
getting
know.
all. We can bring back.
Stuff 'em in the butt.
give me
Put Cade
4
Stover and
dudes,
Mitch Rossi out there on the defensive line. Say, punch me in the mouth.
You know what? Put Cade Stover defensive end, line him straight up on the tight end, and just say, knock this dude 2 yards in the backfield. That's all I need. That's all we need.
He was ready to do it, and then he got held on the play where he was on the field.
Oh, that always happens
That
here.
happens a lot.
And they don't call it ever.
We'll see what I think.
What
that-
else is happening around Ohio State football?
So that's one.
Okay, so there was some portal sliding, as Bob said. I think that's pretty interesting because we're going to have to talk a lot about the 5-star reclassification quarterback and the blonde mullet who's no longer around. Berm only got to wear it once on the show.
Unfortunate.
Could have wore it today in solidarity.
Well,
Ooh.
it was like a $9 mullet that I bought on Amazon for a bit, and
It's a great purchase.
it. I thought maybe I'd get a little bit more use out of it.
Jay-Z wanted to break some news last Monday.
I did.
He held off.
I held it. Well, I didn't know, when we shot the show, but yeah, I had a little insider information. Asked Austin about it. He made me feel better about things, that it wasn't going to happen, and then boom.
It wasn't that I told you it wasn't going to happen. I
We
just thought it was
didn't
going to happen
think it-
after spring
well, yes,
ball.
which is what we all thought.
Because I thought that he would be willing to compete against Kyle McCord, but it turns out that when you sign multi-million-dollar contracts, they kind of want you to play. So everyone got really mad and talked about what I said on Friday night when he left. But even if they removed the specific clauses from the contract, which they didn't do all of them based on the very angry representative of Quinn Ewers who called me and then accidentally started reading some of the things in there like, oh, I guess it says he has to play in a national championship game. So, whoops. Like, all right, thanks for calling and proving my point, bud. But
so let me ask you this, since you got into that. Because my dad brought that question. Because what about these deals? I'm like, well, it depends on how they're written.
Mm-hmm.
Is there stuff in there about what school you're at?
And it may depend on
snaps, percentage
not
of
how
time
they're
you
written,
play.
and what you try to get away with.
Oh yeah. Well, if they don't put things in there to really tighten up the language on you have to be starting, you have to be this, you have to be at this school versus that school, all the play time and all this stuff, then you're going to be able to get it regardless. And so I don't know. That's why he asked me. I'm like, I'd have to look at these contracts and see exactly what the verbiage says.
All
so
the
guy
is
said
somewhat irrelevant, though, right? I mean, at this point, right? All that stuff is somewhat irrelevant.
I think it's pretty relevant because it's the future of college football. I mean, it doesn't matter for Quinn Ewers specifically, but if these things are going to continue to come up when you're and I've said before, and I told you, I don't think that this is going to be that common. Quinn Ewers is a bit of a once-in-a-generation situation.
Should be an anomaly.
Where it's the first time that the name, image, and likeness stuff is out there.
Spencer Rattler did it, though.
Companies may have gone a little bit crazy with it initially. They don't know how it's going to work, and then you're trying to say, well, like at its core, when you're signing these name, image, and likeness deals, the NCAA tried to say you can't guarantee performance, you can't offer it on this and that and the other. Like, well,
these companies want protection.
If you're not playing, you're not getting a name, image, and likeness deal.
Right, well,
period.
Just what you brought up on our rapid reaction on Saturday, the Kansas third-string walk-on tight end who catches a 2-point conversion to beat whoever, Texas or whatever.
Texas.
Isn't getting a phone call from Applebee's the next day if he doesn't make the play in the game. So to suggest that performance doesn't relate directly to your name, image, and likeness opportunities,
it's the only thing.
It's literally the only thing.
Yes. So, and the other part of this, Bob, when you say you want to see the contracts, well, when I get this call and he is very upset and he starts reading it on the phone, he says, I'm going to send these to you right now. I said, fine. Like, I'm not making a case one way or the other. If you want to set the record straight and give the contracts, send them my way. I'm happy to pass that along to make your point and help you out. But weirdly, he didn't want to do that as he was scanning through that. I can't imagine why that would be.
Let me ask you this, and I know it takes forever to get this, but since these are supposed to be reviewed by the Ohio State Department, you have to submit all of these.
15 days, right.
Those then, I would be assuming since they're reviewing them, they would have to actually look at it and make a copy. Those should be subjected to public record and the Freedom of Information Act. So let's get on that. This time next year, we'll be able to look through those contracts.
I can't wait.
I'm sure there's some sort of bizarre way that HIPAA is.
HIPAA?
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you're endorsing vouchers.
Exactly.
and by doing that, I think that would be implied.
These schools and these representatives don't want this stuff in public. I'm sure they have some HIPAA, FERPA, whatever.
HIPAA and FERPA.
I'm sure there is some sort of
How
way.
about FINRA? Why don't we get any more?
I'm sure there's some sort of way that they're like, oh, no, we're not. This can't be public. But either way, like, the point is, we should have seen this coming, I guess, when Ryan Day's first stop last week, as soon as recruiting happened, he got on a plane and flew straight to Utah to meet Devin Brown, the 2022 quarterback that committed to Ohio State.
I thought it was in response to Devin Brown.
I mean, it's all probably one hand or the other. I don't think Quinn Ewers' decision had anything to do with Devin Brown. I think.
Oh, they said I thought it was the betraying of the contract of him coming in and having another quarterback in his class.
I don't think that had any. I haven't heard that.
Well,
but if that's
part of the Ewers camp.
That was part of the messaging from the Ewers camp. I'm like, but he's not in that class anymore.
No, because he also broke his own plan to reclassify and join Kyle McCord's class. It's almost like
none of it
doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, it's all pretty arbitrary.
Like, I think you still have to go out on the field and earn it, and he didn't want to do that in the spring, for whatever reason.
I think clearly, and we can talk about this forever. Everything changed.
Let's just never stop.
We should.
Everything changed on July 1st.
Shut the lights off in
period.
here.
When name, image, and likeness legislation passed, everything changed. Now, in response to that, college football and, I hate to say it, Congress probably need to put together some sort of plan.
Oh, boy.
Oh, no.
Don't
Bringing them
don't
into
bring
it.
that.
Big fan of big government.
Yeah, I guess so.
There has to be some form.
I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. That's the worst thing you can hear from anybody.
I want this marked down. Byrne just asked for Congress.
I'm asking for government intervention. I'm looking for a mandate here, okay?
Looking for a mandate.
There has to be some...
Maybe on macaroni bites, but not on
Warren,
the NIL.
Only you can save us, Kevin Warren.
Yeah, please.
There has to be rules across the board that are consistent and clear. And right now,
I'm crying, and I haven't even had those wings. Like, this is crazy.
You're not going to have the wings. You're
All right, so that's the second thing. We're really plowing through the 5 things.
He won't eat the wings. Everyone knows he won't eat the wings. Give me the ginger.
I thought we would have a lot of thoughts
That's
on
not a joke about your hair colors. I want to be very clear.
hair colors.
Colors.
Well, I was talking about the eyes.
Oh, that's very nice of you.
Yeah, I didn't want to piss him off. I wasn't really concerned
You
about
don't
you.
not worried about me. I mean, I think there's a lot of ongoing intrigue as well about the coaching staff, Bob.
Oh.
And that's pretty relevant for the future.
There's
of
a
the
lot of
program.
coaching. There's
One
a
thing
lot
we
of,
haven't heard much about, though.
yeah, there's a lot of things out there. I mean, looks like OU finally has their guy. Oregon, or
thought we were going to get him as a
Actually,
DC
Miami, I think, had 2 coaches for a while because they had already
They did just a brief overlap.
They had already offered Mario Cristobal
Oh, yeah.
a job, and I'm like, and I asked as I'm doing radio, so I'm like, has Manny Diaz been fired yet?
Oh,
'Cause,
no. He's still recruiting.
I mean, I'm like looking, I haven't seen anything. Maybe I literally am like, maybe I just missed it. They're like, no.
Mm-hmm.
And then the report's out, well, if he doesn't take it, Manny Diaz.
Gets
Can you
to keep
imagine
his
that?
job.
Golly.
The fact that Manny Diaz didn't walk off the job last Friday is unbelievable to me. I mean, that's what he did to Temple 3 years ago, so it wouldn't have been the first time. But, you know, the fact that Miami is out there.
He's like from Miami,
Right.
too. I mean,
This
that's just treating him bad, Mr. 305. You're going to do that to him?
Mr. Worldwide. This is like you're out there in the
He's
middle
buddies
of
with Pitbull.
I mean, unbelievable.
I hope he's okay with his $8 million buyout.
Well,
I know, but there's some things, man, like pride-wise, where you're talking to a recruit, but I thought they offered Mario Cristobal a job. Well, if he says
we're
no,
not
it's
sure. He has till
mine.
12 o'clock tomorrow afternoon to decide.
Here's your deal.
Until then, I'm the coach.
Put it in real world terms. Like you ask your girlfriend, "Hey, will you marry me?" And she's like, "Yes, only if this guy won't."
Yeah.
And
you're
he's
like,
got until tomorrow at noon.
And then you still go, "All right, cool, no big deal."
Well,
Let me know what he says.
If it's your dream job, it's your dream girl, I mean, you're willing to probably
Put up with a few things.
take your pride, put it in your back pocket a
You
little
know?
bit.
Do you
Well, it's
think
not like
that-
they were picking between Brad Pitt and Berm. Like,
do you think that was
it's
still?
Mario Cristobal? He's like, what, 11-6? He just got smoked by Utah?
He beat Ohio State this year, though.
You
That's
think
the
that
one
was it?
thing that
Hey,
got
we'll
him
have-
up there.
Yeah, we'll have to
Do you
say
think that was still
Yeah.
Manny's
It's the only
dream
reason.
job after everything that's happened there in the last couple of years?
Ugh.
I mean, it's your dream girl until you have to get that Valtrex spot. I mean, maybe there's some
HIPAA.
things you got to deal with.
Today's show is brought to you by Valtrex.
V for Valtrex. HIPAA. We've
well,
lost the mark here.
Yeah, the coaching dominoes
The offseason is going to get
could
weird
eventually
around
get to Ohio State, was my point. Not necessarily just the hilariousness of Brian Kelly getting a new accent or Lincoln Riley
Oh, yeah, we haven't talked about that.
fleeing the
Yeah.
SEC. But, I mean, Ohio State is going to hire an outsider to come in and be the new defensive coordinator. That's just a fact.
So who is jettisoning the defense? 'Cause
Yeah, who's
under
leaving
the current college football legislation,
Mm-hmm.
you're allowed to have a head coach and 10 assistant and somehow limitless volunteer quality.
AYOs.
I don't know what.
All you others.
Those are all things. But you're allowed to have 10 people that actually
Yeah.
are able to carry the title assistant coach.
Mm-hmm.
So that means one of those gentlemen would have to be gone or maybe moved into some auxiliary role, which I don't see that happening.
Did happen here once. That's a good point.
With
with
Tim Hinton.
Hinton,
That's
and
why I brought that up.
that worked out pretty well. I don't think that's what's going to happen here. I think the plan for Ohio State is to get through the last home stretch for the early signing period and then make some of these more difficult decisions. Now, if the timeline is accelerated because, let's say, you have a candidate who became available and is not coaching in the playoff after what happened on Saturday in a different league, but you have to have competition against Clemson or Penn State to hire this person, maybe then you would change your thinking. I believe that there are 2 people on the staff who are on the brink of retirement or parting ways, however they want to phrase it. One would be the offensive line coach, Greg Studrawa, and I believe, even though there is a possibility that Larry Johnson may have one more season left in him, I think that this will most likely be a retirement period for him as well. So I think, Bob, that's how they're going to get to that point.
there's so many things that are up in the air. I mean, I know that the conversation around those 2 guys has been brought up before. I lean further away on the LJ rumors than I do on the Studrawa rumors, but that's just my feedback from talking to people. I do think that there's
Feedback is a word for it.
Kevin Wilson isn't a guy that probably deserves a chance to run his own program.
Probably.
There's a ton of places open. So maybe
Really weird that he
Hasn't
can't get
been-
it tracked.
Indiana should rehire
blows
him.
my- yeah,
Absolutely
right?
should.
They just lost their quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, there's 18 different dudes from the transfer portal in the Big Ten from quarterbacks around the league. So
it's insane.
3 from Ohio State.
Anyway,
Buckeyes repopulating the transfer portal with their quarterbacks.
3? I thought it was just 2.
Well, Jagger LaRoe.
Jagger LaRoe.
Put his name in.
Okay.
Which walk-ons should always be in the portal.
Can't you just leave?
Make Jagger LaRoe.
If somebody offers you a scholarship, like,
is that a thing? Like,
Yeah, nobody's going to keep you down.
I think you should just keep your name in there. Like,
At all times.
Ohio State doesn't have to withhold any aid to somebody who's a walk-on.
No.
All walk-ons should be in there all times. And let's just make
Like,
the
it's like a
portal
practice squad.
even harder for them to monitor. Just there's 10,000 walk-ons in there. Let's do that. That's my idea.
I apologize for
More-
derailing that, Bert.
No,
Or big
it's
government.
fine. I'm just, I think at this point, the argument here or the conversation is anything can happen in the next month. Like we've seen this in the last 8 days.
Ryan Day go to the Chicago Bears?
Anything can happen in the next month. I don't think that will happen. I don't think that Ryan Day's desire is to have wholesale changes on his coaching staff. I don't. But a lot of people have to make personal decisions. Ryan Day is certainly committed to Ohio State at the moment. But again, if you're Ryan Day, and I know people are going to do this thing where, they're shilling for their coach. Like Ryan Day is like the 4th highest paid coach in the Big Ten now.
Yeah.
And when you see Billy Napier, who's coaching at Florida now,
They said Mario Cristobal is going to get up to $8 million a year.
all these guys are making more money than him. Something is going to have to change at Ohio State, and I'm sure that it's an ongoing conversation. I don't think there's any imminent threat of Ryan Day leaving or anything like that. But if you want to keep up and you want to compete against Georgia and Alabama and LSU and all these schools that are putting tons of resources into their football program, at some point, and this is, I guess, ultimately where it comes down to me, when you guys picked Ohio State, you were picking Ohio State, right? Ohio State was – you were picking a school because it was Ohio State. It was the dream school. It's all that stuff. I know you had other things going on, but ultimately it's I'm picking this university. I just don't think that happens anymore. I think this is about kids around the country are following coaches, and now coaches can take players from one school to the next.
Like an AAU team.
It's not. It's not the same, and so I think that you see this explosion of coaching salaries, and part of it, I think, maybe, and Austin and I talked about this yesterday. I think that there's an opportunity for coaches to say, "Oh, don't pay me, and I'm going to take this quarterback and this running back and this receiver, and
It's such
good
a
luck."
it's such great leverage.
They wound up having way more leverage than I think anybody could have imagined because it's now more about
The fluidity of it. I mean, you can grab guys and pull them and go wherever. It's amazing because one of the questions my dad asked me when we're trying to make these decisions on schools,
Make it make sense.
He goes, "Would you still want to go there if maybe your linebacker coach or coordinator or head coach is no longer coaching?" And it's like he put that in. Now it's like, well, if they're not there, and you want to leave,
I'm leaving with them.
you can just go. Go with them. You can go wherever you want.
Where is he going? USC? Oh, sweet.
yeah, cool.
So, I mean, I guess that is something that has changed because, like, you look at the Lincoln Riley effect of what happened there. Yeah. I think that probably terrifies a lot of schools. He's grabbing half of our recruiting class and anybody decent that we have in the portal, and you're coming right with us.
Well, and I think you brought this up the other day, Bob. It's like this is that reality. Gene Smith has always been, I'm nervous about skyrocketing salaries and the investment, and it took forever to kind of get to the $1 million coordinator. Well, I mean, if you don't want to pay up even for the assistants, if you don't want to give Brian Hartline seven figures and $1 million deal, well, Notre Dame will.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So
that's what I'm thinking about.
This is a little bit on Gene Smith here now.
The ship was passed on the loyalty, like especially for if you're going to try to prey on Brian's loyalty, and that's someone like, why would he leave? Like people on, I don't know, one of you guys may have even tagged like, he's got a great room and this and that. And he's from here. I'm like, he can have a great room anywhere because he brought those guys in.
Mm-hmm. Those guys can follow him.
If you're going to sit here and try to prey on his loyalty and the fact he's from Ohio, his wife's from Columbus, he went here, like all those things, like. If that's what you're relying, you deserve for him to walk out.
Right, because you should be rewarding loyalty, not preying on it.
Yep. The problem there is you're going to have to pay him, you're going to pay a defense coordinator, and you still got Ryan Day, who's the 4th highest paid coach in the Big Ten.
Let's go to the money tree.
Well, I'm not saying they can't.
That's what the $55 million a year from the Big Ten Network is supposed to be for. It's not to supplement the fencing team.
Plus, all those NFL alums who live in Columbus and have money to give back to the program.
I donate money every year. I'd donate a little bit more if it was used wisely and prudently.
You knew how it was. If you knew where it was going.
If I looked at our athletic department and realized there wasn't a building full of people over there, then I'm not really sure what they do and could probably be done with half the staff. I mean, yeah.
You heard him. Bob's willing to do it for you.
They keep the machine going.
Waste, fraud, and abuse. That's what I'm here to tackle.
He's here to regulate, folks.
Vote Bob 2024.
He's also
Big government.
going to attack some of these
Big government, Bob.
cheesy bacon fries for appetizer Tuesday.
$2.
Well, he's
Is that
actually
what
not
it's
going
going
to
to
eat
be?
them, but
Well,
I might have some.
it's a $2 appetizer.
$2 appetizer on Tuesday. You want to check that out. Oh, there he goes.
Oh, he's
He
going
is
in
ready.
for it.
Oh. So the
pretty good.
potatoes are back in here. Make sure you get that on Tuesday. How much was it, Jay-Z?
$2.
$2. That's
$2.
pretty good. All right, we're going to attack some of that. We're going to be right back for more on Letterman Live. It is brought to you by Roosters. It's a fun, casual joint.
Roosters is one of the unique companies that we deal with. They're involved in everything we do, from our personal foundation to also the Cancer Research Fund. And that's from the Buckeye Cruise from Cancer to all the events leading up to the Buckeye Cruise.
They donate back to different organizations that are near and dear to their heart, and we're so fortunate to have been with Roosters now for a long, long time.
All the folks at Roosters are just genuinely kind folks, and they want to make a difference.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Precision engineering, rigorous attention to detail. A Bryant Evolution heating system is so well designed, it's as much of a joy to install as it is to use.
Good to go.
For the dealer nearest you, visit Bryant.com.
All right, welcome back to Letterman Live. It is brought to you by Roosters. It's a fun, casual joint. Getting ready for the Rose Bowl in a few weeks and running down the list of things that I thought were more important for the future of the program than playing that game, which I'm not saying that they should mail it in or that they should have opted out of a bowl game, but, man, it certainly feels like this program is in full offseason mode already when you're talking about coaching changes, when you're talking about players going into the portal and not
Ryan Day said we're focused on recruiting in the bowl game.
Well, recruiting is also one of those 5 things, I would have to say.
Well, in recruiting, he's
Early
trying to knock
signing
out, next week, right?
Yeah.
Well, this week, Ohio State was on the road last week. All their coaches back on the road this week. And then next Sunday night, the dead period begins again, and the recruiting contact period is over. And then you have signing day, 3-day signing period from the 15th to the 17th. And then you push to February signing period. So it's going to be interesting. One thing Ryan Day talked about on Sunday was that he thinks that there will be more players this year than in recent years that decide to hold off and wait to sign until February, which I hate the early signing period. I think it's a terrible idea for a lot
All of this
reasons.
stuff that we're talking about with the coaching changes has been in reaction to that.
Right.
It ruined everything.
Right.
Yeah.
The early signing period is why you're seeing all these schools hyper-react. Yeah. And it's bad for the players. It's bad for the coaches. It's pretty much bad for everyone. It's terrible when you wrap it up with the transfer portal because there's 1,200 kids in the transfer portal, which means there's 1,200 high school players around the country who are not going to get an opportunity to play at schools that they otherwise may have. It's just a bad thing.
Oh, I don't think all the kids in the portal are getting scholarships.
Well, not all of them, but a good portion of them. If you're a college program trying to fix your problems, it's easier to do it with kids who've already played college football.
Yeah. That helps. They're more mature. They're hopefully ready to go. And it's amazing. That's one of the unintended consequences that I did not see with the early signing period. I liked it when they first put it out because I'm like, hey, if you like this school, they've offered you a scholarship, you've been committed to them, and you'd like to lock it in so that come, January 15th and they get someone else coming in, their class gets a little heavy. It's like, I know that you haven't done anything else and you've only been committed to us. But, about that, I don't think we're going to have enough letters to send out.
That's why they tried to fix this a couple years ago with the financial aid agreements. So back in 2018, if you were enrolling early, for example, the school had to sign with you an agreement of aid or whatever, which meant the school could contact you as much as they want. There were no more dead periods. They could publicly talk about you even back as far as September, and that school was locked into you no matter what. If that was signed, you could go somewhere else. The school could not.
I like that.
Yeah, that's
And so what happened in response to that is schools have decided, we're not going to do that anymore because it locks us in, but not the player. And so now the signing period has come, and it's just turned into this total leverage play by the schools. Say, hey, if you don't sign now, we're going to move on and find someone else. And it's garbage. It's a really bad thing for college football. Anyway.
You have that going on, and as you guys said, just thousands of names in the transfer portal, and Ohio State will have to be involved bringing in players from the portal. Firm reported last night at Lettermen Row that Elias Ricks could be one of those options, the cornerback from LSU. I believe.
Where are we at with him, by the way?
He'll be taking an official visit next weekend. So he's visited USC this weekend. Again, this is one where I'm trying to make sure I'm correct here, but I'm fairly certain that the dead period rules are the same for transfers as they are for
Portal.
for high school players. So he has essentially a week left to visit who he's going to visit. He's at USC this weekend. I don't know if there's a plan to visit Georgia or Alabama for a midweek official visit this week because, again, if the dead period begins again next Monday and he's going to be at Ohio State on Saturday and Sunday, you'd like to think that puts Ohio State in a fair position heading into things.
So you always want to be the last dude at the table.
But it's so different when you're dealing with Alabama and Georgia because kid doesn't need to visit those schools. He's played there. He knows what they're about. He's probably hung out there with players and friends of his from the area when he's down at LSU. And I think that it's a situation where Ohio State has a lot to offer Elias Ricks, namely the opportunity to be a starter day one. Kerry Combs' reputation is one of the reasons why Elias liked Ohio State when he was coming out of high school and Kerry left. Then Urban Meyer left, and Elias told me back in high school that if Urban stayed at Ohio State, he would have signed with the Buckeyes. I don't know if that's true or not. It could have been lip service. But I think that he was very concerned about how Ryan Day takes over the program.
He never coached before, never had coach.
Right, and so he went to LSU, and he had been recruited by Ed Orgeron from the time he was like 12 years old out in Southern California.
Elias, we want you to come here to LSU.
Yes.
Come hang out with my girlfriend. My girlfriend.
That's actually the Brian.
Will you sign a ball for my girlfriend's son?
That's way too. You can understand that way too easy, Bob. You gotta mumble.
I think you have to work out.
I think he refers to Brian Kelly. My family is here.
You don't. It's family. It's
family.
You put a third syllable in there.
Oh.
Family.
Okay.
Family.
Yeah, he nailed it.
Anyway, I think that the Buckeyes are in a good spot for Elias Ricks, but it's not ever as easy as it could be when Alabama and Georgia are involved because they just simply get who they want.
Oh, okay.
Other than cornerbacks, are there any other defensive players out there that we might try and poke?
I mean, Ryan talked about it.
What is this, Facebook?
Yeah.
Ryan talked about
See
it.
if they like it.
He was originally on the Facebook.
Yeah.
You got to send him a poke.
You poke them.
Ryan,
and then if they poke you back, you know you're in.
Ryan, Jesus.
The great recruiting tool.
Ryan.
That's what I thought. That's how I thought the portal was. I'm disappointed
that there's not a poke button.
That there's not like a poke or
There's got to be
swipe.
a heart button or swipe right or left.
Like, hey, we're interested.
On this coaching staff, swipe left.
Portal sliding. Here we go, left and right.
I mean, I thought the NCAA, with their infinite wisdom and like how forward-thinking they are, would have developed an app.
You have a match.
But
You are a championship contender looking for
instead of Tinder, it'd be contender.
Contender.
No, here's the thing.
turn your notifications on. That stuff can pop up while you're in meeting rooms.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm out of here, Coach.
I'm going.
You need a tight end.
Ohio State does
have a nice tight end.
Have an interest in potentially. I've heard there's interest in him from Ohio State and Austin Stogner, a tight end from Oklahoma, who is in the portal. Other than that, I don't think that there's a huge push. And Ryan Day talked about it on Sunday, and he's talked about it over the last couple of years. The Buckeyes do not want to build a program based on the transfer portal.
Oh, portal teams? I mean, that's like the new JUCO.
Yeah, but they don't want to do that. So it is a very.
Oh, that's a great way to build
Worked
culture.
for Michigan State.
It's a very like select few. If it's a perfect fit for exactly what Ohio State needs, which is why someone like Elias Ricks makes a lot of sense, in my opinion.
So hold up, you're telling me, Berm, that bringing in 15 to 20 dudes a year who are at other schools that it didn't work out and trying to assemble a team and build a culture of like toughness and effort, based upon that, you don't think that that's a winning strategy?
That's correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I knew where we were going here.
Glad we got that clarified.
Yeah, correct.
All right, that's like 4. Where are we at? What's the 5th thing now?
Oh, boy. Checkbook.
Woody Hayes plans an expansion of facilities. Yeah. Ryan Day's new contract. I mean,
that one is up there. It's got to be a priority because you said the Bears. There's another team that has inquired about Ryan Day's potential services that had to fire a coach in the middle of the season and plays in Las Vegas now. So that stuff is all looming out there. As Berm said, Ryan Day has no inclination to leave right now. Maybe at some point he would be enticed back to go to the NFL and test it there. I don't think after losing in the rivalry, as competitive as he is, that would be something that he would jump at. But if you've got your agent, you say, well, you kind of need to make sure that things are where they need to be in terms of not only Ryan Day's money for himself, but also for the rest of the staff that we talked about. And Bob, the Woody, that's got to be out there for some renovation.
It's falling apart.
It's got to get a facelift.
Dude, they got like a lean-to. It's like the whole thing's falling over.
I don't know how they're even using it.
Bottom line, Ohio State doesn't want to F around and find out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to be committed to this, then you need to be committed to it. If you want your coaches to be committed to it, if you want players to be committed to it, then the administration of Ohio State needs to do that.
We could just kind of keep things status quo, rely on your tradition and history. That seemed to work out really well for Notre Dame for about 15 years.
Sure.
From about 98 to 2012.
How many national titles did they win in that period?
21.
Lou Holtz won one in 93.
I didn't know if we were going back to 90.
No, we're not. That's outside the years that I was.
Wasn't it a half one?
It was, yeah, maybe. But that's what happens when you just sit back and rest on your laurels and you don't update and renovate. And believe me, it's nicer than it ever was when Justin and I were there. But still, like,
about to get a lot nicer.
You go look around and it's not how nice it was to you. It's how nice relative it is to your neighbors. The house you grew up in, your house now might be way better. But if it's not the nicest house on your block, you know what? You're going to have a hard time getting people to pull in. So, like, that's just the reality of what it is.
Yeah, if you want to poke people.
It's the expectation, yeah. It's the expectation of it. So hopefully they'll get Ryan and get him a nice juicy salary. The thing is about college now, college coaches make so much. I want to know how many college coaches make more than NFL coaches now.
Well,
nearly all.
I would say most of them, and that is especially true when you're talking about the assistants. With, like, for instance, if Brian Hartline ever gets tired of recruiting, we know that he'd be great coaching guys at the next level, but he's almost certainly going to have to take a pay cut to do that because you don't hear about massive salaries for assistants at the NFL level.
Coordinators,
and they move around year after year. I mean, those guys are never in one spot for very long.
I mean, and that's all part of it. That's the pros and cons, but there was a time where people would go to the NFL for the challenge and the financial compensation, but now, I mean, I feel like
now they're going so they don't have to recruit 24/7.
They don't have to recruit 20. Yeah, but some guys love that.
Yeah, some do.
They love. I mean, they get to live in the portal. Sounds great.
Poke everywhere.
Just poking all day.
Poking all day long. Who doesn't like that?
Sounds great. So then we've got
how many is that?
I don't know.
That's at least 5.
I think the NFL decisions are,
Where are we at on the facilities? I mean, is that something that's imminent, Austin?
Yeah, I believe it will be.
Like groundbreaking now, like shovels?
Well, it'll be the most interesting
Soon,
part
right?
about that is how they determine how to do it, when you do it, because you got spring ball. You don't want to be going through the season without the roof over their head in some way. So I don't know how you manage that. If you
we did a spring ball with a weight room in the indoor.
If you work around
for about a year,
if you leave the turf in place and that roof, and I don't know.
Buckeyes working out in the Ty Tucker tennis facility.
Yeah, it's nice that they built those really cool facilities for those other sports.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
The athletes
want them to,
be comfortable,
good stuff.
Because I think they're drawing some really huge crowds for their
doubt.
tennis,
bringing it in, raking it.
Yeah. Hey, volleyball's playing well, I think.
They are. They
tennis
just won.
Consistently competes for national championships in tennis.
Yeah. That's great.
Let's get a new pistol facility.
Yes. It's probably really nice.
Damon Arnett's going to sponsor that one.
Oh, gosh.
That'll do it for us on this episode of Lettermen Live from Roosters on Olentangy.
That would definitely
I mean, if you're going to throw me a softball,
it was a fun casual
for the right price. I'll let you name anything over there.
Oh, boy.
It wasn't the most structured, fun, casual conversation that we've ever had, but that just – I think it proves
nothing is structured right now. Everything's just going crazy. It's the wild, wild west.
A bunch of things all happening at once, and then it shoots Utah and the Rose Bowl off to the side.
It does, which it shouldn't, because that's going to be a good one.
And
we got plenty of weeks to talk about that.
Oh, okay,
fair.
We do.
Well, we'll do that next week.
Yeah,
we're back here for Lettermen Live in the Lettermen Lounge. As always, brought to you by Roosters. Hoping to have Nicole Cox back with us and figure out exactly how she's going to get everybody to Pasadena as those prices just skyrocket. If you're trying to go and watch Ohio State and Utah,
start driving.
You might want to get moving on that one right now.
Drive your own car.
Will you drive, Berm?
Crazy too.
Will you drive? Or are you going to fly?
I would definitely drive if I was allowed.
That's Jay-Z, Bob, Berm. I am Austin. Thanks for joining us once again. We will see you next Monday here at Roosters for Lettermen Live.